Hi guys, welcome to Netgate Chemistry. So in the first video of quantum chemistry, we were discussing about some of the formulas of differentiation, integration along with some formulas of trigonometry, and we were discussing about these three of the formulas. And these three are basically not the formulas, but these are basically, you can call them as short tricks which can help you to cut down your numerical length. So here we were discussing about factorial. Now what is factorial? If I give you a general idea about a factorial, then if I want to find out the value of 3 factorial, suppose, so 3 factorial will be what? That will be 3 into 2 into 1, as simple as that. Just multiply 3 into 2, 6. Okay, so this is basically what factorial is. And now we are going to, okay, we can write one more example, that is 5 factorial. So what it will be? 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Just multiply them and you will get the answer. So it will be 5 into 2, 10, 4 into 3, 12, 120. So this way you solve factorial, right? It's very easy. Now there is one more thing you need to learn, that is gamma function. What are gamma functions? So first we are going to discuss about gamma functions. So gamma functions are represented like this, okay? With this symbol, gamma functions are represented. So gamma function is nothing but, you can say, if you want to find out gamma function of any number n, then it will be n minus 1 factorial. For example, if we want to find out the gamma function for 5, then it will be 5 minus 1 factorial, that is 4 factorial. And you know now what is 4 factorial? That is 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Okay, 4 into 3, 12, 12 2s are 24. So 24 will be the answer. So this is basically gamma function. One more thing, gamma function of this fraction 1 by 2 is written as root pi. Okay, the value of gamma function of 1 by 2 is root pi. This you have to remember. So if I want to find out the gamma function for 3 by 2, okay, if I want to find out gamma function for 3 by 2, how I'm going to solve it? Gamma function of 3 by 2 will be 1 by 2 into root pi. Similarly, if I want to find out gamma function for 5 by 2, then it will be 3 by 2, 1 by 2, root pi. Okay, now gamma function of 7 by 2 will be 5 by 2, 3 by 2 into 1 by 2 into root pi. Okay, this way you are going to solve the gamma function. So I hope you are clear with factorial also and gamma function also. For numerical values, gamma function, solving gamma function is easy. Now for fractions, what you have to remember is gamma function of 1 by 2 is root pi, and this way you can solve the gamma functions. Now there is one more formula left actually, which you have to remember. Where should I write it? I'm going to write it here. So the formula is, okay, there are two formulas actually. So the first formula is 0 to infinity, limit 0 to infinity, integration x to the power n e to the power minus ax dx, that will be equal to gamma function of n plus 1 divided by a to the power n plus 1. This is the first formula. So now you know what is gamma function. Second is integration minus infinity to plus infinity x to the power n e to the power minus ax square dx. So it can have two values. It can have value 0 if n is odd, and it can have value gamma function of n plus 1 by 2 divided by a to the power n plus 1 by 2 if n is even. Okay, so these are two more formulas which you need to remember. So I can understand now that till now you will be feeling that you're not getting anything, but this is because till now we are just discussing about the formulas. There is not much to really understand. Till now you just have to remember the formulas, okay? Once you start solving the problems, then you will understand the application part of it. And as I said, what I'm going to do is I will make separate videos on practicing questions on based on these formulas, so that those of you who are not familiar with how to use and apply these formulas, they can go through that videos and they can understand how to apply the formulas and how to solve the questions. So in this particular series of quantum chemistry, we are just going to discuss the formulas, okay? Because based on, if I start to solve the questions on each of these formulas, then that itself is going to take a very long time to finish. So quantum itself is a very big unit, so I'm not going into that. So with this is so far about the formulas which we will be requiring from differentiation, integration, trigonometry parts, and also some of the formulas which we have created so that we can shorten the length of the numericals for us, like these formulas and these one, okay? Not these one, actually these three formulas, these are going to shorten the length of our numericals. So these are basically the formulas which you need to remember till now. Now there is one short concept which you need to understand before going ahead with quantum chemistry. That is what are symmetric and anti-symmetric functions. So that is very easy actually. First we will discuss what are symmetric functions. So if we have a function fx and it is going to be equal to f of minus x, then that function is going to be symmetric, and the graph for that function will be looking like this one, right? This is 0, this is positive direction, and this is negative direction. So f of x is equals to f of minus x. So these are symmetric functions, and anti-symmetric functions will be those functions in which f of x is equals to minus of f minus x. So these type of functions look like this is positive and this is negative, so this is basically anti-symmetric function. So far these are the formulas or the small little concepts which you require before starting out with the quantum chemistry part. Till now we have not started with the quantum chemistry part, but now we are going to start with the quantum chemistry, and the first topic will be operators. Now, if we talk about operators, then operator itself is a meaningless. Okay, itself operators are meaningless. They are going to give us meaningful results when operated over a function. They are operated over a function, and after their operation over a function, they are going to give us the meaningful results. Okay. This is second thing about operators. They itself are meaningless, but when they are operated over any function, they are going to give us some meaningful results. Now, next thing about operators is that if we have nth power of any operator, then what we have to do is we have to operate that operator n number of times. Okay, the power of operator is going to decide how many times that operator is going to operate. For example, if we have d by dx operated 3 times, okay, they have given d cube by dx cube. So Now if this is the only thing written, then this is an operator and by itself it is meaningless. So what we have to do, we have to operate this operator over any function. So suppose they are giving any function f of x and the function is 4x to the power 5, suppose. Now what we have to do is we have to use this operator and apply this operator over this function fx. So I'm going to apply this operator over this function fx, that is 4x to the power 5. Now we want to find out, after using this operator over this function, what we are going to get. So now what we have to do is, now we know differentiation. They have given 3 times of differentiation. They have given third power, so we have to operate this differentiation operation 3 times. So first time what I'm going to do is I will write d square by dx square into d by dx. I have taken out one differentiation operator and I'm going to apply this on 4x to the power 5. Now what result I'll be getting is this part remains as it is. Now differentiation of this function, 4 is a constant, so 4 will be out. Now we have, what we have to do is d by dx of x to the power 5. Constant is out. Constant is never differentiated, it is removed out. Now I'll remove this overall out, 4 d square by dx square. Now d by dx of x to the power 5. So we know the formula, d by dx of x to the power n is equals to nx to the power n minus 1. Now here in this formula, instead of n, we have to substitute 5. So what we'll be getting is d by dx of x to the power 5 will be equal to 5 x to the power 5 minus 1. So it will be 4. I can take out this 5 here, right, because it is also a constant, and 5 into 4 will be 20. Now d square by dx square will remain as it is. Now here we have x to the power 5 minus 1 and that will be x to the power 4. Now we have 20 here. Now we have to operate again. D square by dx square can be written as d by dx into d by dx of x to the power 4. First time I have applied the operator and I have got this result. Now we have to apply this operator second time. Then what we will be getting is 20 is here, d by dx of this part remains as it is. Now d by dx of x to the power 4. Now again using this formula, instead of n we are going to put 4. We will be getting 4 x to the power 4 minus 1. Right? Now I'll be solving this here. So it will be 20. I can take out 4 here. So it will be d by dx, 4 is out, 20 is here, and d by dx is also here. Now we are left with x to the power 4 minus 1, that will be x cube. Now 20 into 4 will be 80. Now again we have to apply this operator, because the power of operator was 3, so we have to apply the operator 3 times. So first we applied here, second here, and now third here. Now d by dx of x to the power 3, again using this formula. Now instead of n we are going to substitute 3, so it will be 3 x to the power 3 minus 1. So 80 into 3 will be 240 and x to the power 3 minus 1 will be 2. So this will be the answer. This will be the final answer. So if we are going to operate this operator over this function, we are going to get this result. Okay, so this is what I meant by saying that nth power of any operator will be operated n times. So here the operator was differentiation 1 and the power was 3. So we differentiated the given function 3 times and we got this result. Had it been the power 4, we also needed to differentiate this function once more, right? Now moving on to the next property to discuss about the operators. Now the next property of operator says that operators in quantum mechanics should be linear. Okay, operators in quantum mechanics must be linear for operator to be linear. So what do I mean by saying that? So if we want operators in quantum mechanics to be linear, for an operator to be linear, so we need to know how the operators are going to be linear. So if we have any operator A, okay, this is the symbol for operator, this is the symbol for operator, this cap is symbol for operator. Now if we have operator and we are operating it over a function that is k into fx, k is any constant, so we can take out the constant and then apply this operator over the function, just like here we did. Here we removed the constant outside, right? Here also what I did was I removed the constant, this constant 4 outside. So if we can do that, we can say the operator is going to be linear. One more thing, if this is not the case, then if we are going to operate an operator over two functions which are getting added, that is one function is fx and the other is gx, then we can operate the operator on each of these functions separately like this. Once it is operated on fx and second time it is operated on gx. So these are the properties of an operator to be linear. Okay, it is going to follow these properties. So this is what I meant by saying operators in quantum mechanics must be linear for operator to be linear. Okay, now there are some more things to discuss about the operators that we are going to discuss in the next video, and we will discuss some of the very important operators like commutator operator and Hermitian operators also. So I think so far that's it for this video. In the next video we will continue with the topic of operators. So far that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching.